Hello everyone and welcome to another video of the Power BI series. My name is Jose Almeida and in this video I'm going to introduce you to the concept of measures and slicers. Okay, if you remember, this is our cost by product sales table that we worked in the previous video. If you don't assist it, please go back and check it out. You can find the link in the top corner of this video. So the first thing I want to do is to change the table style for something more readable. Okay, and also we need to change. I want to change unit price for unit cost because I realized that I named this column wrong last time. Okay, I'm ready to go. So in this video, I'll talk about measures. And first question is like, what is a measure? We can define measure as a kind of subtotal in Excel. A simplistic way to define it is more complex than this, but I like to introduce in this way because give you a sense what a measure is. If you are familiar with the subtotal function in Excel, you know that will perform a calculation of the rows or the fields they are displayed, they are shown. So, if for example, if we filter just by bed, you'll see the sum of the total of the unit cost is changing and all the units are changing. So this is a kind of simplistic way to define what is a measure. But let's go back to Power BI and I'll show you how this works, and hopefully it will be much clearer for you what I'm talking about. There are a few different ways how to create a measure in Power BI. The first is in the home page, you have new measure in the calculation section. The second one is you can right click over the table where you want to create a measure and select new measure, or in the modeling ribbon, you can select a new measure button as well. Doesn't matter which one you select, the result will be the same. But let's create our first measure. Click new measure on calculation section and we'll see the formula bar shows up ready to write our formula. First thing, let's name this measure. It's called sum total cost. And after the equal sign, you can start to type your formula. So, see the IntelliSense function, when we start to type a formula, shows up the list of formulas available and the description. So in this case, it's showing me the list of formulas that start with an S. And you can scroll down and select the one you are looking for. Don't be afraid, there are many DAX functions. You'll have time to learn these ones. Most of the time, you'll use just a bunch of these. So in this case, I will select the sum, and the sum adds all the numbers in the column. That is something that you are familiar. And I want to do the sum of the total cost field. Now we have a field called sum total cost. Let's drag this field to the canvas. By default, we show as a bar, so let's change this to a card. And we have 461.96K, which is exactly the same that we have for the sum or table. If you click over the field, you'll see the formula that you created before. Like, what is the difference between this measure and when I just use the field and put this in the card? But we'll see in a minute where is the difference and where is the power of the measures on DAX functions. Also, I want to tell you about other options that you have. If you are familiar with the pivot tables in Excel, you have the option to directly define what aggregation do you want the field to show up. So you have the sum, average, min, max, count, distinct, count, standard deviation, variation, and median. So you can use directly one of these. For example, if you want the mean, they will show the mean, and so on. There is also the option to create measures using the new quick measure button or click right button over the table and select new quick measure. There's currently 27 different functions. Give a look on these ones, but for now I want to focus in the way to create our own measure. Okay, moving on. Let's assume we want to know the total cost by salesperson. We can quickly drag salesperson field and some total cost, and we have the total cost by salesperson. And now we want to know what is the percentage of each one over the total. As I referred before, we have the option to show the value as a percentage of the grand total. But I want to create some visualization on this one, so I will transform in the 100% stack column chart. Just need to change the salesperson. What is here? Yeah, there we go. Salesperson here, and I don't want to show this, and I want to show the list. Okay, looks good. Okay, let's get some space here in the canvas because I want to show you how you can add a slicer. You are familiar with this from Excel. I'm sure if you use the slicer in Excel. So here in Power BI you have the many options with a slicer, but the quickest is like you can select the slicer in the visualization tab, and you define field do you want to filter. So in this case we'll select the salesperson. So now we have the option to filter our visualizations by the salesperson. So for example, if I select Claire, all the visuals are only showing the numbers for Claire, and same. And if we select Juan and Mary, we have both here. You know these ones. You can define the way the slicer interact with one of the charts of visualizations in your model. If you go to Format, and under Visual Tools Format, you have the Edit Interaction. So select Edit Interaction, you will see now every chart, every table or graph is showing some options on the top. What that means is like I have selected the slicer, and now I will define do I want the slicer to interact with other objects in the canvas. So for example, if I select none, so non-interaction, they will not interact with this chart. Every time I filter some of the names here, nothing will happen to this one. This is really good when you don't want to, you want to use slicers, but you don't want that to change some of your graphs or some of your charts. This is not just on the slicers, but as well in all the other objects. So if, for example, if I select this chart, I can say like, okay, this chart will interact or no with one of the other graphs. So for example, if I say that doesn't want to interact with this table, and if I remove the filter from here, so if I select Mary in the chart, this will filter this table, these two cards, but they will not do anything on this table because we define to not interact with this one. Slices are really useful, and I'm sure you will end up using it many times. There's lots of other features that you can do with slices, but the idea for now is just to be an introduction. But how can we calculate percentage of total of cost of each one of the salesperson over the grand total and be able to display it once we filter using a slice? So the first thing is to create a measure that calculates the overall total. And to do that, we'll go and we'll create a new measure, and we'll call this the grand total cost, just to be different. And I will calculate this using a fantastic, one of the most powerful functions in DAX, that is the calculate function. The calculate function evaluates an expression in a context modified by a filter. So imagine this as the SUMIF or SUMIF S in Excel. It's more powerful than that, but as an introduction, you can think on this as the SUMIF. So we'll calculate, and the expression we'll calculate will be, we want to calculate the sum total cost, the measure that we defined before, and you can see the measures, they show up with the different signs. When you have this calculator, means that this is a measure. So we want the sum of total cost, which is our expression, and we want to filter this by all. All is another DAX function. that returns all rows in the table or all values in the column, ignoring any filter that might have been applied. That means this remove all the filters, and what we want here is to calculate the total cost, removing all the filters, in this case the slice that we are applying. Select all, and we'll say like which table or column do we want to remove the filters. In this case, we want to remove all the filters for our cost by product table. So we close, and now just to see, if we bring here to the canvas and we put it like we have the 461.96 thousand units, that is the total of our table. And just to see the behavior of this field, so if I add this new grand total cost to this table, you will see that is for each one of the rows is showing the total amount. Doesn't matter which line we are using, it's saying like, yeah, that's the total. Okay, that is not really helpful here, because what we want in the end is to divide the cost of each one of salesperson by this total. So the next thing we'll create is another measure, percentage total cost, and we'll use the function divide. We'll divide the sum of total cost by the grand total cost. And when we do this, okay, so let's see how that looks like in our table. Okay, so now we have 100, so we just need to, in modeling, change percentage format. And okay, there we go. So now we can remove this grand total from here because it's not necessary. And without filters, you can see how that looks like. Now look, let's see what happens if I filter Claire. Okay, so you see now Claire is showing the 4%, which is exactly the amount we want to display. 42%, and Mary 42%. So now you have the calculation of the cost by salesperson over the total, and you can use this in using the slicers. Cool, right? I really hope you have enjoyed this video and that you can use these techniques in your own models. There's tons of other things to talk about, and every month new amazing features are released. In the next video, I'm going to introduce you to table relationships. If you have any question about this video, please leave a comment or drop me an email. You will find my contacts below. You can also subscribe to the channel to receive the latest videos and share it with people that would like to know. Thanks for watching, keep tuned, and I hope to see you soon.